But indeed, as you say that we're talking about the energy transition. I mean, it's general term, so it's not energy revolution or energy. There is a path that needs to be adopted by us, by every countries, and the path maybe is not all of other countries. So I'm going to talk about the context of the Southeast Asia countries, the ASEAN countries, which to some extent has its own compared to what happened in the global context. Yeah. So I mean, I start with this figure. I mean, everybody is already aware on this figure that I mean, many institutions, companies, maybe research consulting companies have this kind of number that's saying that ASEAN, the countries will still rely heavily on the fossil fuels. Not because we are simply in love with the coal, but if we look at the policy that we have today in every single countries of in the region, and the policy that will coming in the next few years, the existing framework that we have, that indeed the coal will continue to play a significant role in energy mix in most of the countries in region. As is our own ASEAN energy outlook, and this being developed with the intensive all of the countries. So it is reflected what the countries plan projected the energy landscape until 2040s. And indeed, coal is having and will continue to have a major share in ASEAN energy mix today and the futures. We run a number of scenarios, but the figure more or less similar on the growing on the coal energy system. But then, yes, as everybody's talking about the climate change, the pressure on the emission and environmental concern, it also put a pressure or the growing concern for us on emission as ASEAN move towards energy transition, similar with that happened in anywhere in the world. But from the figure that I showed earlier, that indeed it's still showing growing. So about the declining or plateau or even a net zero is challenging challenging issue for us in this region context. Some country, of course, is making a solid commitment, a strong commitment on this issue, but as a region, this is the figure that we have where it's still going at least until 2040s. Maybe after that we can see a better thing. But here, as you see, is again that coal is a major issue to push on this growing emission. Back to the question: are we really in love with coal? Or I mean, that's maybe while over the world, that people pushing for renewable energy on the energy transition to rely on the coal. But I mean, for many reasons that we have, but one of these is coal is the backbone of regional energy resilience. As we're talking about the resilience, refer to the capacity of the energy system to cope with the hazardous event or trend, responding in a way that maintain its essential function, identity, and structures. So coal is still playing and will continue to playing a significant role on our energy resilience, be it in terms of its robustness, the ability of energy system withstand the extreme weather, even as well as the gradual change on the continued operation. It's in terms of the resourcefulness, ability to effectively manage the operation during the extreme weather events, or in terms of the recovery, the ability to restore the operation to desired performance level following a deep disruption. So this is another perspective on why coal is still playing a significant role with us, in addition to talking about that the pricing level that we still see lower compared to the other fuel types. Here I'm sharing the finding from our, I mean, not really news. This is the policy brief that we released end of last year. It's available to be downloaded in our website, but you can see two figures there. It's not the ASEAN figures. It's coming from the outside ASEAN. On the left, it's in Europe, and then on the right is in Kyushu, Japan. But I would like to show is in the traditional power system, load following has been conducted as a measure to address the requirement of load balancing. So in making a dynamic shift to introduce renewable energy on massive scale in ASEAN, so we're talking about that energy transition to introduce the renewable energy in a massive scale. Achieving grid flexibilization is crucial since we are aware of the issue that we have in renewable energy. It's variable, intermittent, and seasonal, which in case of the massive introduction of system fluctuation if no specific measures are taken. In this context, the landscape in the era of the energy transition will be different in terms of the scale of flexibilization and the range of the power plant that are required to take the measure to address this requirement. This is illustrated in the left figure, how a combination of different power sources need to be deployed to offset the fluctuation. Aiming for the integration of renewable energy, there are several possible approaches of intervention, of course, from the system, from the market, from a network, or from the storage to flexibilization at the existing power plant, such as from gas, coal, and hydropower. In many countries in Southeast Asia region, coal is anticipated to constitute one of the pillars of the decarbonization solution, while in the most of the countries, gas power may not provide to the extent they are to address the situation in absorbing the to keep the grid stability. So with that, coal will keep its important position but in a new role where it enables renewable energy to thrive and pushing the progress of their energy transition in the region. While ASEAN as a region is still on early pace of improvement, examples from the other success story are being studied, such as the case of Kyushu in southern Japan, which is known to be particularly progressing in renewable energy integration. This is an example case that's being defined by many, including the IA, to be on par with the most EU economies in terms of the energy transition progress. So you can see in the right figure, a graph of the daily load curve is quoted from the record of the Kyushu Electric Power Company. The graph provides an idea about how the possible fluctuation is to be addressed with the multiple measures respectively taken from the. So the utility undertake the and transmission and the distribution to the measure of the consumer in the Kyushu region. So it requires a combination of advanced technology, which is still for us in the ASEAN context, but the region is on pace to which improve policy and technology adoption targets. So this will be my last slide. Coal has been a driver of the industrialization, economic growth, and energy resiliency for decades, and will remain as a major fuel in fulfilling the growth of energy demand in ASEAN. So with the region heading for the energy transition toward low carbon economy, the coal industry needs to adapt and address its environmental impact while ensuring the region energy security. So therefore, CCT will play an essential role in supporting the cleaner utilization of the coal. The countries in the region have started their efforts, and there is a need for accelerating the development and deployment of CCT. The study has highlighted the regional approach in promoting the CCT could be in the policy support and intermediation from the government is needed. The innovation and financing in CCT should be prioritized, as Mr. KK mentioned earlier, and the cooperation both internationally and regionally should be deepened. As ASEAN is still in the nascent stage of the CCT utilization, the countries will endeavor to increase their level of activity in enhancing their capacity. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take the discussion. I back to you, Pak Endra. Thank